The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby. The game changer is here. Card Ladder.
Start an hour or two a little early, and apologize for the crash and losing everyone. Feels stupid. Not good. Stupid phone. Sell cards, but dude, seriously, I just need to get an iPhone. I think I need to stop being a baby and buying Android phones. Get an iPhone. I don't know, man. It's annoying.
We're back. Man,
We're talking about you were rolling, so keep going.
oh, what was I wrong about? Yeah, I was just talking about all the cards. Like, we got a question about will the basketball market recover?
Yep.
And I was disputing the premise of the question because certain segments of the market don't need to recover at all. They're doing absolutely fine. So, but when it comes to the cards, I think that the person writing the question has in mind, they're talking about Luka Prism-based PSA 10, Lillard Prism-based PSA 10, maybe even talking a little bit about Kobe's. Some Kobe stuff it is no longer setting record highs every day. And we spoke to that. Unfortunately, that recording is gone now, but we spoke to that too a little bit, that those markets are cyclical. So, when you talk about them recovering, well, the question is, what point are we at? Are we leading up to a new season? Is hype surrounding these players? Like, that's going to matter, I think.
Another one is Giannis. I think it's a good time to buy Giannis because he's just flat out lost a ton of value recently in his more common stuff. He got knocked out of the playoffs early. He couldn't have ended any worse for him, honestly. The team looked worse than last year. So if you believe in Giannis, now's the time. I mean, the track record of Giannis in the offseason for him individually is to come back a much better player, and I don't see how that is going to not continue. I think obviously the biggest thing he needs to figure out is a jump shot. But I have a lot of faith in him as a player in the offseason, and now's the time to buy Giannis. So you guys are seeing me buy stuff after the fact sometimes with football, and I'm still telling you when to buy and when not to buy stuff. Now's the time to buy basketball. Stuff's going down, so buy it.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe people don't get caught sitting there waiting for the floor, and then all of a sudden stuff starts going up again, and it just this buying window passes you by. That can happen. Yes. That can happen very, very quickly. I think the turn on Giannis was very severe, and he's at 50% of his peak price right now, and I'm seeing, to borrow a term that more and more analysts are using, I'm seeing support at the $3,500 mark for his card right now. Will it go lower? I don't know. But, man, the same thing happened last year, too. When they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, was his cards went absolutely sky high, and then they retreated. And right now they're worth about 8 times what they were worth at this point in the season last year. So, okay, lots of questions here. So Ryan Bitter writes in, could you guys talk about volatility in the market and what to avoid buying? So like maybe the inverse of what we just talked about there, like, hey, maybe it's a good time to look into some of these guys who have crashed. What about the inverse? Who are some people to avoid buying right now?
Avoid?
Yeah.
Football.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott. Those are the guys I'd be avoiding right now. Probably. I'm trying to think of some other guys. I have a pretty strong outlook for like a lot of the basketball guys. Like it's just like we're coming off some pretty major dips across the board for basketball. Most to avoid. I mean, I wouldn't be playing the Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George game right now because who knows how that's going to go. It's like 50-50. One of those teams is going to lose. I wouldn't be playing the Jason Tatum game right now. I wouldn't be. They won tonight, but I wouldn't be playing the Jimmy Butler game. Honestly, the guys that are still in the tournament right now, I wouldn't really be buying them. Even if they win, people are already kind of baking in prices of them getting to the next round right now, so it's a little risky to expect them to win the championship and then also see their values go up because of that. Unless it's just like a totally unexpected thing. Like if the Celtics win the championship, Tatum's going to go bonkers. So if you really want to gamble on Tatum, you can, but chances are his stuff's going down.
And so to AJ Bonilla, who wrote in, he was wondering, will 80 Prism RCs bounce back to 3,500? And I had to check the record. I couldn't believe they got that high, but they indeed did. And now they're about half of that. He says, will the 80 Prisms bounce back to 3,500 if the Lakers reach the finals? So you just talked to that. You just spoke to that question, but I just wanted to shout him out for saying the question. He kind of got his answer right there.
Seems like that one went down more because of the Prism base hype, that everything shot up so much that all Prism base went down, whether they're still in the playoffs or not. And the guys that got knocked out went down even more heavily. So I don't know that I would say that Davis got cut in half because he's playing great. Like the Lakers look good. They're probably the favorites at this point. Davis is playing fantastic. I don't know that his play or anything has anything to do with him getting cut in half, which is maybe frustrating for some of the new guys watching. Is like, you know, you would think that like them playing good, their prices would go up, but they're going down because so many people came in and flooded that market, and the stuff just went down because of it.
Definitely. Twooge, real quick, got guys in the chat can chime in on this as well. He wants to know Tatum buy, sell, or hold. Josh, Josh just gave his take on that. If you couldn't infer it from there, it is. So, guys, give Twooge some insight here if you have any on Tatum buy, sell, or hold. Devin Curran 37 writes, will the vintage market collapse as fast as soccer did? And Ryan Rudzant in the chat had a similar question, but it was phrased more politely. What do you see the outlook being for vintage right now?
I think it's going to go back down. We've shown those graphs so many times in 2016 where it went fucking bananas and then it came back down. People will lose interest and they'll move on again. It's gone up way, way, way too fast. I saw a sale last night where like the Julius Erving came way back down. You saw that one, right?
Yep.
The Julius Erving PSA 9 came way back down. Even like there was a Wilt PSA 8 with like perfect centering. It was like the best 8 I've ever seen, and it was lower than the last 8, like $5,000 lower. So I think vintage is going to come back down. It went up too fast. It's not that vintage is bad or anything, and it's not that Davis is bad. It's the same thing. Like it goes up so fast that like when stuff goes up that fast, people are going to take profits no matter what. You can't stop it. They're going to sell their stuff. Supply's going to go up. They take their profit. Price goes down every time. So just like if you are playing this game where you're buying something and you want to sell it for profit, if that's the game you're playing and you're not worried about long term and you just want to make money, if something 2x's or 3x's, take your profit, man. Like I don't like this game of like, oh, I think it's gonna go up next year, and like just take your money and do it again. And, like you did a great job. You got your money. You 3x. Who wouldn't want that profit? Like if you would have started it at the beginning and you had said, "Man, if I 3x, I'm definitely selling this." And then when it does 3x, I see guys that still hold and they're like, "No, it's gonna go higher." Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Like just take your profit.
Well said. What's up, Jordan? What's up, Cole? Okay. Do you want to talk at all about fractional ownership? This came in from Andy, Fifth Down Sports Cards. He said you guys should cover emerging fractional ownership. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Shout out to Andy, one of the best collectors in the hobby. Great guy to work with. Is he talking about? You think he's talking about like you and me going in on a card, or is he talking about like people selling shares of a card?
Yeah, he's
Like,
definitely. I think he's referring to like Rally Road, collectible, new like professional outfits that are selling small fractions of high-end items.
I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool market, and I think that's going to keep growing. And I've heard whispers of different people starting companies like that. It's definitely coming. I think it's a cool, fun idea, especially for people. It's like the breaking of investing, right? It's like I don't want to buy the whole fucking box because I don't want to get crushed. Same thing for like I don't want to buy $100,000 LeBron rookie, but I do want to say that I have part of it and I want to invest in it. So it's a cool idea. It's like a different alternative for someone, different way to invest in something. So I like the idea. I guess my one like nitpick of it is that I invest in sports cards because I like owning sports cards. So I don't you don't get it. You don't actually like physically have it. So I would personally not do it because of that. And it's the same reason I don't do breaking because I'm in it for the cards. So
Yeah. It is extremely exciting, and it bodes very well for the long-term prospects of sports cards that people are buying fractions of them and they never even own the card. They're that bullish on the future of cards. That's that bodes very well for the industry. But it's also the antithesis of why I'm involved in sports cards. I like to have the card. I like to gaze at it. That's it. Like that's the whole point of this thing to me is like owning the card, flexing the card, sharing the card with people, chasing the card, landing the card, selling the card, trading the card, getting a new card. And all that is gone when you're doing fractional ownership. So it's ironic because it's very fun and like it's exciting, it's interesting, and I'm looking at it, it's interesting. It makes financial sense, right? But like I would never even care about it if it wasn't for the fact that I already love the hobby. So like for different reasons. So I don't know. Kind of torn on that one.
Rodman said, I pull mine out every day and I hold it. I bet you do, Rodman.
What about yeah, I bet he does as well.
Jordan likes the F-bombs. Is the F-bombs, is that a thing? I know that like a lot of social media content does it, and I prefer cussing, but I usually don't do it on the show. But tonight I'm feeling
it's just how it is sometimes.
Feeling frisky tonight,
This is a great question. This is a great question here from California Card Collector. He
Great
said,
collector.
Indeed. He said, do you ever suffer from hobby fatigue? Do you ever take a break?
No. I use the hobby to take a break from everything else, dude. Honestly, like there will be days when I just don't feel like working. I don't feel like talking to anybody. Those are my days, and you know what I do in those days? I'm freaking on eBay, and I'm grinding, and I'm looking for stuff because that's my thing. It's just my escape. Yeah, I know what he means. You kind of like eventually get a little bit tired of maybe. Honestly, I think what he means is like maybe he means like you get tired of like the community and like the whole everything that comes with it, and you never really get tired of the individual. Like, let me just get on eBay and find stuff. So I'd say like if you're in that rut, maybe just like unplug from Instagram and unplug from Facebook groups and just like go back to eBay and just search for cards and buy stuff yourself. I think maybe that's maybe what he's getting at.
Yeah, I like how you took it to the next level. You read what was underlying the question. You know, like no, we really don't. The hobby is our escapism. It just is. It's just the hobby is just pure joy when you're. But you know, so yeah, so guys get burned out by having a bad deal. If a trade goes sideways or a purchase goes sideways or
Yep.
you get outbid on a card that you really wanted, you aren't gonna be able to get it again. You know, that can sour people from time to time. But I don't know, man. No, I can't really say I've ever felt fatigued or tired of the hobby. I'm trying to think of a time.
Last night I was talking to Rodman and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" Rodman's like, "Yo, I'm just on eBay searching cards, bro." That's how it is, my friend.
Exactly. But okay. All right, let's talk a little NBA. Let's talk a little NBA here.
Nice.
This comes from the Wharf Sports Cards.
Okay.
He's and so you know we just had this Clippers Nuggets game 5. He says, how do you feel about Michael Porter Jr.'s comments from 2 nights ago? And that's when, you know, MPJ said, I love the team, I love the coach, but we keep going to Murray and Jokic, and we need to feed more people. Obviously, if you read between the lines, he's saying, feed me more. Okay, so he goes, how do you feel about MPJ's comments from 2 nights ago? Now that we saw what he just did down the stretch of game 5 to back up his comments, and he must be referring, he made a big 3, and then he made some key clutch free throws down the stretch there. So what do you think? What's your take on MPJ basically right now?
Dude, honestly, you're gonna be shocked by this. I love that. You know what it reminds me of? Don't freak out. It reminds me of a young Kobe Bryant. Now, please don't overreact to that. It's more of like the bravado, right? Like dude, give me the fucking ball, right? Like screw these other guys. These guys are late round picks. I was the number 1 player out of high school. You know, I was like this top prospect. Like, give me the freaking ball, right? I love it. You know, who doesn't want that from their player? And if I was the coach and other players on the team, I wouldn't be talking about how he's selfish or anything. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. This kid's good. Give him the damn ball. He's earning my respect a little bit more and more every night because he's making big plays. Like, you've heard me talk about how I wouldn't be buying MPJ and like the hype is there, but man, if you ball, you play good basketball, I don't really have much else I can't be hating on you anymore, right?
Dude, I love this take. Love this take. Dude, he had 0 points going into that 3-pointer that he made in like the last minute. He had 0. And dude, I saw Murray was trying to create some on the baseline, didn't have anything. He kicks it to Porter. Dude, Porter, like, I saw him hesitate for like half a second. He was just like, do I do anything other than just jack this shot up right now? And he said, nope, launching right now. I don't care.
Game winner.
He nails it, dude. He nails it. So, yeah, dude, it is pretty awesome, crazy, cocky for the dude to make such a huge shot in a huge moment. And, like, dude, honestly, like, the shot was contested. And he was like 4 feet behind the 3-point line, but like I knew as soon as he shot that thing, it was going in.
I mean, if you think about it, who are like the 2 cockiest players of all time? To me, it's Jordan and Kobe. So like, I always talk about this, where like I don't question almost anything that these professional athletes do in terms of like their cockiness or like the way that they carry themselves, because for people like you and me, we have no idea what it takes to get to that sort of elite level of competition. We have 0 idea. We never will. So for us as outsiders to question what those guys have to do to get their mindset ready to compete at that level, who are we to say that like being overly cocky isn't the right way to do it? Like we're just guessing, based on like historical data of, like this is how Jordan and Kobe acted. People were criticizing the hell out of Kobe for that way he acted. And then at the end of his career, they're praising him for it. So it's all about just like how you actually perform, right? If you're winning, anything goes. If you're losing, you sound like a dick no matter what. So, like let these guys do their thing, and if that's what it takes for him to get going, then do it.
Yeah. Well, it definitely makes that series even more interesting. So that's a great take. That's a fun take.
I pinned a comment because it's such a great question. Can you see that?
Yes, I can. Okay. So JT Sports Cards 802 says, how long did it take to find your collector identity? That is, what sport, players, cards you truly collect, and how often does it change? That's a great question.
Such a good question. That's one of the best questions I've ever seen. It takes a long time, dude. It takes a long time to find your identity, because when you're buying stuff at the beginning, you're sort of just going off what you see in the moment. And eventually you'll get to the point where after a couple of years, you'll basically like know every card that's out there, minus like some one-on-ones and random crap like that. But you'll basically know what's out there, and you can kind of make your decision at that point. So I just give it time, man. It's like anything else. Like you can't be a professional. You can't be really good at something until you've done it for a couple of years at least, I would say. And like Tuish says right there, it's definitely a journey. It's not like there's not like, you're not going to come in and you're not going to buy $100,000 card and it's not going to go to a $200,000 card in a week. It's just not going to happen. And you can speak to this just as well as I can, where like, find what you like, fucking throw yourself at it, do it hours and hours a day, do it for 2 years, do it for 5 years, and stop listening to fucking YouTube content of guys that have been doing it for 2 months. And do it yourself for 2 years and figure out where you're at. Like get into it. And if you don't like it, do something else. And just keep zigzagging around until you find the thing you love. And man, like this is kind of the whole basis of everything we talk about, man. It's just like there's no shortcuts to this. It's finding your passion in the hobby, finding the cards you love, doing it over and over, finding people you like in the hobby, and that's it, man. There's not some fucking YouTube guy who's gonna come on here and be like, oh, here's the 5 steps. It's gonna make you rich in a week, dude. No, it's a grind, and it takes years. Ask anyone on here that's had a great PC. Ask them how many hours they've poured into this.
Yeah. Resist the FOMO. Resist the FOMO at all costs. And the YouTube stuff just feeds the FOMO. As you were talking, I was wondering, were there milestones for you? Like, this was a game-changing like moment or period for me.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you get to like, there's definitely milestones, man. Like when I first started, I was collecting LeBron refractors, and it's like I hit a milestone of like I've gotten every like silver refractor from every Topps Chrome, and it's a milestone. It's not the end of the road. It doesn't end there. The next step was like, okay, let me start looking at golds, and the next step was let me start looking at autos, and then rookies, and then let me go to football. Like it just never ends. So there's definitely milestones, man. Like give yourself some short-term goals along with the long-term goals, right? Like you just give yourself something, almost like something that you can't lose at. Like let me just get these 5 cards that you can't lose. Give yourself a win, right? Give yourself a short-term easy win where you can get to it fairly easily, and it doesn't take infinite money to get there. It just takes time and effort, and build off that and keep going, right?
100%. And yeah, look for those milestone moments. When, dude, I do remember starting off and feeling like I will never ever have a great PC. You just feel it. You look at your budget, you look at the hobby, you look at what people have done before you, and you're like, it's just never going to happen. But just plow through that moment and build the best PC you can. And you might be surprised with what you come up with. Yeah. Sierra says, setting small goals. Dude, yeah. That's exactly right. 20 Jay-Z Chrome Gold. Let's go. Dude, 2005 Jay-Z Topps chimes in with that. Dude, that's
you awesome. You and I have talked about this before, just like one-on-one personally, and we've said like you said, I never thought I'd have a Jordan Red PMG. I never thought I'd have a LeBron RPA. And if you think about it in terms of like this huge marathon race, and you think about how old you are today, and you think about, man, if I'm going to be collecting, you and I have only been collecting for 4 years.
Yep.
4 years. Think about if we collect for 30 years, bro. Like 30 years from now, we could have the most insane PC of all time if we at this pace that we're going. So don't get too caught up in the like flashing lights of someone else that has this humongous PC that they've built over 10 years and you're only 6 months in. There's a reason that dude has so much more. He's been doing it for 10 years, he's been doing it for 6 months. So like it's a marathon, you know. Don't try to feel like, oh, I have to get this $50,000 card tomorrow or I'm a failure. Get it 2 years from now and work your way up, you know, like climb the ladder, you know, like work your way up slowly. It's not gonna, you can't jump to the top of the ladder. You can't skip the levels. You gotta put in the work, and it takes time. I think that's the number one thing. Honestly, the number one thing that all these content creators suck at is that they want to give you the shortcut. And it's just like, this is how life is. This is how the internet content community is. They want to freaking give you the 5 steps to get rich. And if you listen to the guys that are actually giving you good advice, it's always that you need to put time into it and effort, and it takes time to build at something. You can't, it's nothing that happens overnight. Nothing.
Dude, I just want to let that one sink in. That was extremely on point. The other part of that question was collector identity. I just want to say one thing on identity. You will find that there are things that you like more, and and you should like gravitate to the things that maybe make you a little bit different as a collector. Don't go so far off the path that you're just lost and you're just like down these rabbit holes and it doesn't make any sense. Like, don't zag too hard just for the sake of zag, right? But you know, like if there are things that make you unique, certain things that you like, certain tastes that you have, that you're gravitated to a certain set or a certain card, you know, dig into what makes you different and unique. You'll find that to be nice insulation from like the roller coaster and the oscillations of the cycles of the content creator commodity cards.
Milk.
Right. The milk, and also you might, you know, you might be pleasantly surprised to find out down the line that like there were other people that felt the same way you did as well. So, and then, you know, if there's something a little different, dude, there's so many Instagram pages now. It's unbelievable. So many content creators now. Like, you know, if you have unique cards, you're going to stand out all of a sudden. Whereas, you know, you have a pile of the same cards everybody else has, not so unique. So like identity, collector identity, is a great way to think about it. And, you know, let your identity come to you, I suppose.
Yeah. This is like my biggest beef with social media is that you know, on social media you only see the good of people. You only see their best, you only see their filtered side. And it kind of like can really get yourself down of like, man, my shit's never gonna be that dope. Or I'm never gonna have a card like that. So like, why even freaking try? And a lot of those people that post that kind of stuff, myself included, you know, that's not how it always goes. We have losses just as much, and you know, maybe I should start posting more of my losses and mistakes and failures and stuff, because it's not reality. Like, nobody has a perfect fucking collection. Nobody's made a perfect decision every time, and people screw up all the time. And yeah, I'm just posted. I've had to mess up all the time to get where I'm at, and it's totally true. Like, we've made mistakes. We bought the wrong card. We've zagged too far. We didn't zag when we should have. Like, dude, it's never perfect. You sold too early. Dude, everyone has a story about like, oh, if I would have just held that Giannis gold prism for 10 more years, I'd be rich. Nobody has a crystal ball. Everyone's making this up as they go. We're all freaking trying to figure it out together. So, you know, just I don't know what the end of that is. Just have fun. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm rambling.
Definitely.
Kevin Love, look at Rodman. Look at Rodman. Kevin Love. I remember that dude. Hell yeah.
I remember that too. The Kevin Love card's probably gone up now as well, though, huh, Rodman? Just like everything else.
You know about that.
The one guy.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a question from Jazz Chaser on the NBA topic. who do you feel has done the most in the NBA bubble to broaden their card appeal or demand?
If you have something, you can go. I'm thinking
Um,
Donovan Mitchell.
dude, yeah, but here's the thing, right? Like Donovan Mitchell and Jamal Murray had insane performances in the first round. Jamal Murray had 2 games in which he had 95 points and 0 turnovers. But then Murray got to the second round against the Clippers. And all of a sudden, I mean, I saw a statistic. The drop off from one round to the next in points per game for Murray is the second largest of all time. So, like, man, 2 different series with 2 totally different stories. So, like, I do love the Mitchell breakout, but, like, the sample size is too small. And the Denver Nuggets defense is not good. So I just don't. But I see, I see the argument for Mitchell, but
Jimmy Butler's a really good one.
yeah.
I like Jimmy Butler, man. I really like his passion for the game. Really, I don't want to say scrappy because that makes it seem like he's not talented. Super talented, scrappy. His backstory is insane, man. It's been coming out more because of the bubble. His like story of how he was like homeless and he had like a family take him in, and he's just always been the underdog his whole career. And there's stories of like Iguodala saying like, if the team that plays him starts like giving praise on him, like, dude, Jimmy Butler's so underrated, he's so amazing, he'll just like flip that on them and be like, yeah, you guys are pumping me up too much. Like he always is looking for that extra motivation. Like he'll always figure some way to be slighted. So I always like I always respect guys like that. Butler's a good one. This one's going to be a really lame answer and super selfish of me, but LeBron, like just kind of the platform he's held up of himself. He's been very consistent, and I told you this the other night. He is just like rock solid with the interviews and like the questions that he answers, and he's always consistent and he's straightforward with it. And the way he's handled this whole protest thing has been really consistent. Like he's going into the post-game interviews kind of with what he wants to say in mind. He's very like thoughtful about it, and he's like leaving a lot behind in his outside the game world to come into this bubble knowing he's going to be here for a long time, and he's just laser focused as always. He seems to be the most consistent player in the bubble in terms of like getting his team ready and not having these distractions. LeBron is just like, as always, super rock solid, steady as it goes. Those blocks the other night, God, dude, he's just like, if you don't think LeBron is just like a go, like I just don't know what to tell you anymore. Fucking year 17, and the dude is just putting on a highlight reel night after night.
Yeah, dude, the 4 blocks. He might have even had more. I just remember it being 4 when we were talking like in the third quarter.
Monster dunk, like the dunk on Westbrook. He had like the alley-oop from Rondo off the backboard. It's just like, dude, come on.
Yep, totally. And he's got the team of misfits orchestrated and playing together. And Caruso and Rondo and like all these guys just, filling in around him properly and doing what they need to do. And it's a beautiful thing to see it come together like that. So like, yeah, dude, LeBron is definitely an answer there. And I have to say, I'm impressed with Kawhi because the consistency is really good. Like, dude, I'm sorry, man. Rant here. Kawhi defensively, he made all defensive first team. Dude, I saw Jamal Murray blow by him half a dozen times tonight. Just like smoked him. Absolutely cooked him. Now, he did have like the middle finger block the other night, which was crazy. It was awesome. And he's a great team defender, great help defender, super smart. He has the claws, etc. But like the defensive side of the athleticism just isn't there. So like I'm not like super like Kawhi.
He's a little flat-footed sometimes. He's like standing in cement sometimes. You're right.
But on offense, how he's getting to his spots and he has this flat top fadeaway and he's like shooting 60%. And then he's even making these threes, the flat top threes that he's shooting and stuff. And like, just when I remember like rooting in the first round against him, and rooting for the Mavs. But just every time he got the ball, you just knew he was going to get to his spot, and you knew there was a high percentage chance that he was going to score, and he did, and he did. So like offensively, the guy has become just such a seasoned assassin that it's, you know, I think he has proven a lot here as well.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said at the beginning of the night, which is like, just watch these games, man. You'll figure it out so quick. Who's the good player? I mean, people are asking me about Siakam, and Siakam's a great topic. Just watch it, man. He's just not as good. You know, like, there was hype around Siakam because people wanted him to be that next guy, and they wanted him to be this next small forward, you know, great player. Watch the games. He's just not, you know, he's not LeBron. He's not as good. So just
He's not
watch the games.
Giannis. He's not Giannis. No.
He's not. He's a good player, great role player, and the Raptors, you know, hang their hat on a team game, and they don't have the superstar, and so to try to expect Siakam to be the next, you know, Kawhi or Paul George or Giannis or whatever, like, it's just, you know, watch the games and figure it out. I'm not sure that was ever realistic for him. He's a good player.
He is a good player, and people were trying to explain how he's joking like Giannis. Ooh, that's harsh, Rodman. That's too much. But people were trying to explain why the Raptors were so good without Kawhi. How did they have the same regular season record with and without Kawhi? Like, people wanted to, it must be Siakam stepping up. But no. It's actually a lot of guys. It's Van Vliet. I mean, Van Vliet is, you know, that guy is a problem, man. If he gets hot. And Lowry, I mean, it's just a scrappy team of guys. Powell, Gasol, you know, all guys. Dude, Ibaka was just going nuts at various points during the playoffs too. Like, that whole team is just is loaded. So
Yeah. And playoff basketball is different, right? The games slow down. It's more about like individual, like half court offense. So like that's where the best players really shine, and that's proven true over the years, that like having the best individual player, especially someone with size, like a, you know, a shooting guard type size player with athleticism, always ends up working itself out in the end in the NBA, because you know, the game slows down. So it's the best teams always kind of work themselves into it at the end.
Yeah,
these are interesting.
And look for Siakam to make an off-season leap. That could very well happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of these guys come back and they prove me wrong, right? Like, I don't think Siakam's that great of a player relative to his expectations. Maybe, and dude, you told me this morning that his card prices have tanked the most of anyone.
Dude, Lameem James hit me up this morning. I don't know why he needed it, but he was like, send me a chart of somebody whose prices have tanked. And I was like, who could I send him? And I was like, oh, Siakam. You know, his silvers, you know, are down. I want to say from like 2,000, like $800, maybe even lower. That's a sizable dip. You know, we've seen, you know, Giannis got cut in half, but he went down to 3,500 for his base. You know, Luka went from 2,100 to 1,200, but like when a guy's losing more than half of his value, you know, that's a pretty big dip.
Let's talk about the Rockets and Harden.
Let's talk about him.
I don't want to jinx anything because I'm rooting for LeBron, obviously, but it's not looking good for the Rockets, obviously. And James Harden is just kind of doing his old thing in the playoffs where he just sort of, I don't know if it's just like the double teams, you know, where he gets frustrated. And Tim Legler pointed out, every time he gets double teamed, he passes the ball out and he fucking stands there, man. He doesn't even like run. It's so weird. And I don't know if he's just frustrated or that's like part of their game plan that I'm not sure. Yeah, you could, like, if you watch these games, you could see it in Harden's face and his like demeanor, that it's just like, they asked him in the post game, like, how did you guys not get up for this game? You guys are telling us that you didn't have the energy, but how is that possible? And he's just like, come on, man, this is like really weird stuff that we see every single year. Harden to me is that guy that, like, if you've been investing in him and you want to keep saying he's underrated, like it's probably time to give up. Like I'm not sure that like it's ever gonna turn around at this point. It's just too late. We have too much data. There's been too many years of the same thing over and over.
Yeah, in fairness to Harden, he's going up against the best team in the bubble, and it's a very good defensive team as well. But, dude, a couple observations that I've heard made by basketball analysts. Number one, watch in the fourth quarter, he is done. He's out of energy. He's gassed. He's tired. And the speculation is like it's because he's actually playing both sides of the ball really hard the first three quarters. Then by the time he gets to the fourth quarter, there's not much left in the tank. Ever since that remark was made, I started watching him like closely in fourth quarters, and the energy is just gone. And that's not good. That sucks. And then the other thing, like, so you have this whole Daniel House thing, and like we don't know exactly what happened with him, but like it speaks a little bit to like a remark I heard made on a podcast was like it speaks to team chemistry. So what's up with this team that like they're jeopardizing, one of their key rotation players on, in the most important series of their season. Like it's like do or die right now. And like, it just feels disrespectful. It just feels like a big problem that happened. And it's like a systemic problem to that team's chemistry. Yeah. And then you have this like weird Russell Westbrook problem where like the dude shot like 24% from three this year, like that just doesn't fit with what they're trying to do with the micro ball. It just doesn't fit. Teams can leave him wide open on three. He will jack up the shot. Sometimes there's a hitch in the shot. I can see like the little hitch because like it's like a psychological thing. Like he knows I'm wide open here because I can't shoot a three, and it gets worse and worse. And then he's coming off of an injury, and like he's the type of player who takes a while to acclimate again. So like the Westbrook thing is a problem, but he played better. He had and then that's like the final thing I'll say. He played much better in the most recent game, and they still got crushed. Fourth quarter rally notwithstanding. So I don't know, man.
He said in his post, he's like, after game 2, when he played really bad, he's like, I'm just out here running around trying to figure it out. Are you serious, dude? You're in the playoffs. You've been playing with this team for a year. What are you trying to figure out? Like, the game plan is set. I don't understand how this late in your career, this late in the season, you're running around trying to figure it out. That's just a really bad look. It's just weird stuff. You're right. Someone posted leadership. Leadership is like the most critical thing just across the board. We have poor leadership in this country. That's why we have all these problems popping up. Poor leadership on the Rockets. They just don't have like the superstar that's leading them. And leadership is so important to everything in life. Every successful company has a great leader. Every successful country has a great leader. So leadership, 100%. They don't have one right now. Just weird stuff in their interviews. Like you said, weird things that like they're all just saying weird stuff, man. Like what the heck?
I know.
I'm not here running around with professional basketball players running around. What the fuck?
Yeah. So people are chiming in now properly. I think there's a risk that they're going to blow up the Rockets. So what does that mean for James Harden? But that where does he go from here?
I'm not sure. I mean, he's gonna Dominique Wilkins. It's just like he's gonna be remembered as like, yeah, he had some moments. He has his individual skill, and someone will give him a big contract. Rockets will re-sign him to this monster deal, and he'll just hang out for a few more years, I guess. I'm not sure. Maybe he's okay with this, maybe he's fine with just like being the top scorer in the NBA that loses in the playoffs. I mean, he doesn't seem to care that much in the post game, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. And you never really hear rumors about him pushing to, get traded or you don't really hear much about that at all. So maybe you're right.
And
But
then there's a lot of players that are like supremely talented and really great at their craft that just like don't have that extra kick to like want to be the best of all time. And that maybe that's fine. I'm not sure.
yeah, blinding 90s. That's the rumor in many cities about Harden.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a bummer. He's single, right? Still?
I think so.
Shave the beard, man. It's not funny anymore. It's freaking weird. It's weird. You look weird.
Take it back to that Topps rookie card look.
Just shave it, man. I don't know what you're trying to do anymore. Like, we get it. Haha, you have the longest beard, but like, do you actually enjoy that thing? It looks miserable.
Yeah. Northwest Cardboard, I'm assuming that's what NW says. He says Harden equals Iverson.
Iverson, at the end of his career, has gotten a lot of hobby love. Harden could be that, could be similar. Harden and Westbrook have always given me those vibes where, like, after we don't have to hear them in post-game interviews say why they lost, people will remember their individual skill.
Yeah. Iverson had a different level of cultural relevance, I think.
Yeah.
But dude, it was the Bill Simmons podcast earlier this week. It was remarked that like once like what you're saying, once like we're not watching Harden play anymore and we go to Basketball Reference and we look at like 3 straight 35 point per game plus seasons and like we look at all the different accolades that he built up for himself, and people are going to look at this and say like, this guy's the greatest player of all time. What the hell? Because of the stats, right? Because of the stats. Like, you know, dude, he is putting up crazy numbers, no doubt about that. But this is why winning matters. This is why we like winning and why we have to have winning in addition to stats. You know, it's another level of verification of how good a player is.
And the playoffs suss out the high usage rate players. Like, you've got crazy high stats because you've got crazy high usage rate. Playoffs really show your efficiency in that you win or lose games against elite talent. So if you're not efficient, you're going to start losing.
Yeah. Oh, as I was browsing the questions, shout out Hassan Whiteside for showing off his PC of his teammate Gary Trent Jr. How cool is that? And like, you know, my understanding is he is not an investor. He's a guy who just thought it would be really cool to stack up and collect cards of, you know, his young teammate who he believed in. And then he's like, wow, look at these cards blew up for this guy. This is awesome. But, you know, all raw, laid out on a table. They look more nicely organized than Giannis's PC. But nonetheless, very cool. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because I'm tying that into a question here. This came in from Lingua Sports Cars. He said, sometimes we hear collectors say that they hope that the hobby goes mainstream. What would that look like in your opinion?
I mean, Gary talks about this a lot. It's, you know, it's Drake and Dwayne Wade and LeBron referencing cards or owning cards. Giannis. We're seeing that kind of pop up here and there, and it seems like it's getting momentum, and it's huge. It's huge. Like, if those guys start collecting on a regular basis and showing off cards, it's huge. You know, they've got huge reaches, much bigger than a lot of us. You know, exponentially larger than us. You know, people say that you and I have a lot of followers, dude. What about people that have like 10 million followers? One post from them and 10 million people see something. It's huge, yeah, if those guys get into it. Who knows what's going to happen?
What would you know, hobby going mainstream? I think about how fantasy went mainstream, right? Like TV shows, dominating everybody's Sunday, you know, basis of interaction with people. I don't know if the hobby can ever get to that point. I don't know if it's for everybody. Like fantasy football, I get it. It's for anybody can play it, because you can just set your roster and just not do it, and you just, you know, just let it ride for the year, and you're still part of a family league or whatever. You just do a draft and you're done. You know, with cards, cards just requires a little bit more intensity and intelligence and effort that I think the average person might be willing to apply to it. So I think there might always be a level of niche to it.
Yeah, but fantasy football and fantasy sports in the past were seen as like a nerd's game of like stats and calculating, and it became real mainstream. So it's possible.
It did. It did. And so like the other side though about cards is having like these very rare and like desirable flex pieces basically
Yeah.
is that's very alluring to people, especially people with the means to acquire them. So like
Yep.
I could definitely on the flip side of that coin see this appealing to people who like to flex and like to find ways to show off and show their taste and show how refined they are and stuff like that. So and I see okay, so I see Cooks CLLC is in here. Let me get to his question. He had a fun question. He says, "What does a futurist hobbyist look like? Think of a card, artificial intelligence to eBay, one click, drone delivery." So I don't know, what's the Jetsons of the hobby look like or something. I don't know. Maybe he can elaborate on that quite a bit. It'd be in the
Uh,
chat here.
it's gonna be like no inefficiencies, like the stock market where stuff moves up and down like more calculated, and everyone has the proper tools, and it's just like there's no mistakes made anymore. There's not gonna be any BGS 9586 Fleer Jordans put up on eBay for 10 grand that someone hits the bin on. I was watching an interview with Elon Musk today, and that dude is like 50 years ahead of all of us with the way he thinks. And it's like, yeah, the singularity thought of just like everything being so optimized and so perfect that like the human body isn't even necessary anymore. And like you're getting to the point of like AI superiority and stuff. I don't know if I want to go down that path right now.
No, yeah. We'll just touch that. We'll just leave that at that. Okay, harkening back to the prior question, because I love this. Adam Lefko says, but those big names wouldn't be buying and flipping. They'd buy it and treat it like rare art galleries and such. Yeah, that excites me.
Yep.
That's the place that's when I just love cards but I hate, but it becomes difficult too, is that like when the collectors that I like to emulate, yourself, Stephen Go, the legends who have put together cards and like they're untouchable. The PCs are museums, and that's what I love. In the hobby could get to there could be people like Nat, for example. Nat is a great example of somebody who has just curated a PC that I will never even become 1/1 millionth of it, but like that's what I love that about it. I love that it's so great and it's so finely curated, and like I can go browse his page and learn things and like learn about him. That really excites me, the fact that we could get players into the hobby, more players on that level who would start unearthing like Nat unearthed the 3 dual logo man 1/1s from the first year of Exquisite. Like that is just fascinating. It's amazing. It's a collecting achievement that like I haven't even fully grasped yet. So like we get more people doing stuff like that. It's very exciting to me.
Yeah. I love the parallels to art. And I was gonna say it earlier, but you were rambling on forever. Just kidding. I love the art. I love the art parallel because it's so important to our future that people eventually treat it like you said, like a museum or like these pieces that they have in their home that they treat as like, the peak of what they show to their friends and family and stuff, and becoming the centerpiece to a home. I think that stuff is hugely important to the future of the hobby and how it can grow. Is if people start treating the hobby as like these fine pieces of art, and if athletes are going to take up the mantle of presenting cards that way instead of like, hey, yeah, like we're not flipping stuff, like we already have money, we just want to own the stuff, we love collecting it and we love showing it off, then that may be the new norm going forward, as it is with art. There's a lot of flipping in art, so don't confuse that. But in general, you think of art as like this centerpiece to someone's home, and I think it could be like that for cards. And I know Hacker Jordan always talks about that, like someone coming into his house, them learning a lot about him from his cards and him sharing cards with them and stuff like that. I think that to me is huge because of the cultural importance of sports from now until going forward. Sports are so important to our culture, whereas art was more like a previous generation's culture, and cards could be that thing, right?
Dude, they totally could. Sweat 47 points out it's pretty underwhelming, but there is a card collection on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. That's awesome. Definitely could see more and more things like that happening.
Hopefully not autograph cards where it's fading.
Yeah, maybe that's why it's underwhelming, right? It's because the owner knows not to expose the cards to sunlight.
Yeah, I got a few more.
Okay, Card Jason 12 says, we need guys like that in the hobby to keep us all striving to be better and to reach that level in our own unique ways. Yes, yes. We all want to reach the pinnacle of the card world just like anything else in life. I couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's, the Burdick collection, a lot of tobacco baseball cards. Okay. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. You know, that is something very exciting about the era of cards that we're collecting, 80s, 90s, modern, is like the story is being written right now. You know, we're not, and I love and admire and appreciate the history that baseball cards are built on, but like we're writing that history for our generation, our athletes, our collectors. We're writing that story and shaping it and molding it right now.
Yeah. So the cards you want to lock yourself into long term are the ones that you think 20 years from now, what players and what sets and what cards are people going to be talking about? You know, like, is it going to be Prism World Cup Ronaldo cards? Probably not. You know, is it going to be 2012 random year LeBron silvers? Maybe, probably not. You know, it's going to be stuff that really, really, really sticks out long term. Like if you think back to 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s cards, there's only a few cards that stick out, you know? And granted, there was a lot less cards to choose from, but still, like, I think 20 years from now, there's going to be far fewer players and far fewer sets and cards that actually stand the test of time. So try to think about it that in those terms if you're actually wanting to hold stuff longer.
Totally agree. How much time do we have left?
I'm not sure. Maybe like 5 more minutes.
Okay. Oh, so many paths to go down here. I still have dozens of questions. Let's end with this one. This is from Card Shop Dad. He says, let's hear some stories of your favorite chase or a missed opportunity from your first year or two back in the hobby, or maybe something you're currently chasing.
My longest chase is still the 03 Finest Gold LeBron. It's like the one card where no matter what project I'm working on, I would drop it in a second and sell a bunch of shit just to get it. And I really haven't had a great chance to get one. And it's so frustrating, but I think that's kind of what makes it fun. Mistakes in the first few years. I mean, it's like such a boring answer, but I just wish I would have bought a lot more stuff. Wish I would have doubled down on what I knew today, obviously.
That's so true. Yeah. My favorite chase was getting the PMG Red Jordan. And like there was somebody else who wrote in a question, they said, I can't find it. But the question was basically like, it was about mistakes as well. So like, I could have had the same exact PMG Red Jordan for $11,000 when it first was on eBay, when I first was back in the hobby, but I was way too timid, underconfident, and just it didn't even make sense to move that level of money to get a card when I'm buying $100 cards.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, 2 years later, I end up buying the exact same card from the exact same person for twice as much, right? Like that happens. that definitely happens. So like, there's a regret there. It was also a very fun chase. The feeling of accomplishment will never be matched. I mean, honestly, that was my biggest grail card, and I got it. I would like to upgrade it someday, but that was that was it. And I'm fine with that. It liberated me to like do other things. Like after I did that, I felt okay to collect other players and stuff and like start moving into different things.
That's so true. Getting the same for like the green PMG penny. We got 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Green PMG penny. I was just chasing it for so long, and I got it. And after that, I was like, now I can finally look at football cards. I can grab different random ones. I don't have to focus as much. Great show tonight, man. I feel like it gets better every week. We gotta fucking figure out my shit phone, and I'll get this one up and see you guys next week.
See you guys.
The future is here. An innovation that will change the way the industry works. A Hot 100 chart, updated daily. The most accurate price guide on the market. Every card has its own profile with a wealth of information. Know the precise, real-time value of any card in the system. On demand. You now have the power to unlock the secrets of the hobby. The game changer is here. Card Ladder.